Welcome back to the Basic Training Podcast, where I, your host, Brittany B, talk about the preparation that we have to go through in order to get to the assignment that God would have for us. In today's episode, we are talking about it's time to move. Now, I'm not saying move like geographically to another place, like another state or country. That's not what this is. But it's time to move on the instructions that God gave us before, the first time. In the first episode, we talked about how, we ask God for more, but we don't do what He had already told us to do in the original instructions that He gave us, and we still expect more. When you do what He told you to do, then you will receive more, okay? But we're talking about it's time to move. Move in obedience. Move in what God told you to do. And stop holding out or holding back on what He told you to do because it doesn't fit your image or doesn't fit your standards or whatever the case may be. Okay? So too much preparation becomes disobedience and leads to procrastination. Let that sink in. Too much preparation becomes disobedience and leads to procrastination. Okay? Too much preparation leads to death of your spiritual baby. Let that sink in as well. When I say spiritual baby, I mean your ideas, your visions, your goals, the plan that God has for your life. It dies because you are not doing what He told you to do, and then He's getting somebody else to do it because you didn't do what He told you to do. So now the thing that He gave you is dying or has died. What are some signs that you've been preparing way too long? No real movement is being made. Overthinking the instruction. You keep putting it off, putting it on the back burner. And there's constant research. There is this thing that is called analysis paralysis, where there is an overwhelming amount of information, but you're not doing anything with that information. And that's something that I deal with. I can do all the research, but actually putting in the steps to follow through with what I researched, it tends to be hard for me because there's too much information. What does faith require? Faith requires movement. Hebrews 11, verse 8 through 12. I'm going to read this. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who made the promise. And so, from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, as countless as the sand of the sea on the seashores. So notice in this passage, it always started off with by faith, so and so. By faith, Abraham. By faith, Sarah. So can you, by faith, move without all the details, or do you need to know the details in order to move? Movement activates your faith because faith without works is dead. James chapter 2, verse 14 through 26. Write that down because I'm not going to be able to read all of that. It's a lot to read. But focus on the portion where it talks about faith without works is dead. Let's talk about motion because it's time to move. It's time to do what God told us to do. It's time to move in obedience and stop operating out of disobedience or operating out of fear and leading us to procrastination and leading us to killing off our spiritual babies. Okay? It's enough with that. So, if you haven't already picked up what I'm putting down in season 3, we are putting action behind what we have learned in season 1 and season 2. Okay? So, motion is step by step, even when it's unclear. Can you move even when you don't have all the facts? Can you do what God told you to do the first time, even when it doesn't make sense? Can you do what He told you to do even when it doesn't make sense? Can you do what He told you to do even when you don't have the funding for what He told you to do? Step by step, even when it's unclear. Can you still move? In the motion, things are revealed and brought to the light. It's in our motion that we then begin to get clarity, clarity in our ears and our eyesight, clarity in our speech, clarity in our hearts, because we moved on the thing that God told us to do. Let me get close to this camera. Come on in. No more preparation. You've done all the prepping that needed to be done. You've done all the research. It's time to move. It's time to put action behind what you already know. It's time for some motion in the ocean. It's time to get your groove on, okay? It's time to move. Be obedient. It's time out for this disobedience and for cherry picking the instructions that God gave you. Because I don't think you realize how bad it is for God to get somebody else to do the thing that He gave you. I don't think you realize how bad that is. But then when that happens, He still gives you grace. And then He gives you another assignment if you are willing to be obedient. Okay? It's time to move. So let's move. Amen? Amen.